Welcome to this very special event in the Poem Present series. As always, I want to thank those whose sponsorship makes the series possible: the Department of English, the college, the Dean of the Humanities, the Provost, the University Arts Council, and Chicago Review. Eirik Steinhoff from the Department of English and editor of the Chicago Review will introduce Alice Notley.
Alice Notley is a poet who trusts and insists on the efficacy of poetry as an instrument of ethical speculation. Of course, this kind of trust is not unusual among poets. It may even be called a habit. What makes Notley unique is her willingness to articulate an argument in defense of poetry that goes against the tide of fads of its most vocal practitioners. I mean that she is willing to make a case for poetry using language that is profoundly outmoded by critical fashion. Here are a few sentences that she wrote in 1992. Poetry is not about words or how one thinks or making things. Poetry aims at truth. But the truth is not intellectual. It is the truth. That fact poetry knows and academic disciplines do not. For example, a mythic assay at the truth is probably better than a run of polysyllables or equations, because figurative outlines and bright colors are easier to see and understand, and paradoxes are better resolved and used when they are not named paradoxes, but are named Coyote or Athena. I take something of a risk quoting so passionate a statement to this audience. Is more than 10 years old, and I'm aware that Notley's sense of what poetry knows and needs has changed, just as the truth has changed. But I also trust her faith in truth, and reading her most recent poetry, I trust that it persists. It is related, I think, to Sir Philip Sidney's defense of poesy, which promotes poetry as the architectonic mode of inquiry, one that yokes the abstract powers of philosophy with the concrete forces of history. Notley's trust in mythic assays and figurative outlines and bright colors is a salutary tonic to those of us in this room, and I should think that there are many of us here, who are too closely wedded to paradoxes and polysyllables and equations. We have precise things to learn from her, and the delight that her poetry delivers in the course of this instruction makes it, for me, one of the signal achievements of our time. Notley is the author of more than 20 books of poetry, almost all of which, to our great fortune, are available in the Regenstein Library. Until the mid-1990s, when she became a Penguin poet, most of her books were published by fugitive presses affiliated with what she has called the more rebellious wing of poetry. That said, I should assure you that the 3 books she has published with Penguin show no sign of decorous accommodation to a mainstream audience. The title of her most recent book, Disobedience, should suggest as much. It refers to her refusal to submit to the dogmas of nation, class, gender, or vocation, even while remaining cognizant of the real force those forms have in our lives. The intensity of this disobedience leads to agonized and galvanizing assertions of herself in a language that she knows is not controlled by her. She takes that lack of control and converts it into a virtue by being the language's own worst liability. I don't want to create meaning. I want to kill it. You made meaning. I'm trying to make life stand still long enough so I can exist. I truly am speaking. This paradoxical assertion of a speaking self flies against the proscription of the lyric ego that so many fashionably rebellious poets subscribed to in the 1990s. And in fact, it is her refusal of poetic dogmas and her forthright assessment of their inadequacy to her experience that may account in part for the volatile range of poetry she has been writing for the last several years. Notley's early books have the wonderful, energetic, offhand vernacular grace of Frank O'Hara and Philip Whalen, among other new American poets. These early books show her to be a reflexive writer, which she continues to be, one who is responsive to the shape and motion of a poem as it is written, and who allows much of the nervous energy of composition to carry over to the reader. This is a jaunty, capacious, and fundamentally honest poetry that lets things in and lets things happen. Her poems incorporate the voices of her children and her dialogue with them. They document overheard fragments of conversation. They revel in sex and whimsy and lyric delight. They analyze marital squabbles, and they are inflected with the deeply strange and mythic logic of dreams. But her poems have also functioned as a medium for communicating with the dying and the dead, and for forging a way of coping with what Frank O'Hara called the endless originality of human loss. Her unflinching and vulnerable responses in poetry to the deaths of her father, her first husband, and her brother have deeply affected her art and tested its resources, permitting her ultimately to reinvent her relationship to audience and form. It was her private grief over the death of her brother, a veteran and victim of the catastrophe in Vietnam, that revealed to Notley a way out of what might be called the lyric impasse, and drove her to embrace and revise that most public and neglected of genres of war, the epic. In The Descent of Alette, which was her first book to be published by Penguin in 1996, Notley delivers a radical, subterranean, feminist epic of tyrannicide that has all of the Vatic narrative momentum and energy that one expected of epics before Ezra Pound and Charles Olson got to them, which is to say that this is a book that you cannot put down. Like all the best epics, it comes replete with a significant metrical innovation, something like Milton's epic blank verse updated by Williams's variable foot. I recommend it to those of you who have not read it as one of the most intelligent and beautiful books produced in our language in the 1990s. Her most recent book, Disobedience, places the storytelling mode of Alette with the bracing interrogation of the self that occurs in 1998's Mysteries of Small Houses. Disobedience follows Notley through 13 months in Fin de Siècle, Paris, where she has lived since the mid-1990s, and is one of the wilder works of poetry that I know, wild both in form and in the force of the voice that it contains. A fluent, angry, proud, and intimate voice. Her most recent poems sustain this wild mode at an even greater velocity and with a close embrace of a disjunctive discursivity. This is poetry that is, for all of its ambition and challenges, also wonderfully human and engaging. Notley's lively language feels less literary and more like equipment for living in these uncertain times. Notley has won several awards, most recently the Griffin Prize for Disobedience, and she has had a strong and productive influence on her own generation and on the generation of poets now coming of age. All of us have something to learn from her lively example as a formally diverse and radically independent and inventive poet who approaches her art with clear and fresh intelligence and force. Won't you please help me welcome back to Chicago, Alice Notley.
I'm going to read across several books and manuscripts, and I hate to explain things when I read, so I'm not going to explain anything. I like to perform when I perform and explain when I explain. So I'm going to explain things tomorrow at the lecture, but I'm going to perform right now. Everything is sliding down. Don't you dare slide down. Good idea. Thank you. We will do it this way. Remember what I came here to do to this world very little, actually. Remember what I came here to do to this world very little, actually. I came here so that thee. I came to be equal in surprise too. I came empty-handed before being dried. I am a poisonous epoch. I was at 4 a shape of love and reason. I was at 15 capable of heinous pity. I'm not so foolish as to. I think at 34 that I know who the best poets are. I saw your footage of what you said was the age. I meet 6,000 men and 15 women on the way to. I thought we would have more influence on. I perform no generous act, 84. I put self back in the genie bottle for the fad. And did I ever love? I, loving truth more than myself, am abased by. I was poor, but never poor enough. I have as much authority to speak as. I was against all war and loved mostly soldiers. I have no identity I recognize except in myself. I go in there, it's the page of a book, I rip it. I am infidel to country. I, guilty always through speaking, inhale. I, that year, hating the species, thought of myself as inhuman. I think the imagination is more real than. I said, presume we're all fully responsible for. I once visited their great graves, that was years ago. I measured that year in sequence of vivid dreams of it. I was once the shaman of a death. I keep trying to be honest in this glittering wind. I find you difficult, like as not. I saw it, and I said, I will never be complete without thee. I caressed him too clumsily. I borrow someone else's form. What else is a body? I don't have sympathy, we're equals. I'm supposed to read from my diaries. The audience awaits my life. I want to read my love poem by me, Francois Villon. No, I mean me. Miss Ellie from Dallas says that life's horrible offstage to no one at all. Her life and she are a fiction. Mine and I, Francoise and he, are not. Our emotions terrify and transform us. Our lives have a will of their own. That's why people want to hear our diaries. Tired of trying to seem as smart as the ones who say we're the smart people? They say they are, so get to be. They've been to see the wizard. So get yourself a certificate of intelligence. I'll give you one as part of the meal. Why not? This certifies that, fill-in name, is wise enough to be in the general burning conversation, just as she, he is. If I burn, I am saved. If I'm saved, I do not burn. Signed, Alice Notley. How to kill a lion. These methods involve large canopic jars. Specifically, different treatments of the lion's head are proposed. Sometimes the head's left intact, sometimes it's crushed or shrunken. The tête de veau, the milk-white head's eyes delicately closed, lined up on TV last night. A dream about the subjugation of all wildness. The serial tweaker, it says in this paper, doesn't kill, is content to pull out the eyelashes of his victims one by one. The man's a philosopher. The veau drinks from the grail. How? In the red dark in its stall. How? Do you know? But that doesn't justify its captivity. How? Do you know? I saw a tableau. Who suffers more, I or a veau? A veau is unable to disobey. A veau suffers, drinks from the grail, but suffers. Driving in the mostly tame wilds of southern France, a hand-painted sign says, "See God in 3 kilometers." Follow the sign, arrive at God, a wooden train stuck in the earth, all its machinery still going. People had built a train of wood on a track in a deep fosse they dug, but they stopped digging the fosse. The train's head stuck against a wall of earth, its wheels turning. An old dream in front of an ornate brown ivory, or was it wooden, Gothic shrine, a nun hands me a poem carved into a small slab of amethyst. Not this poem, an earlier one. How beautiful it was. This poem's a stuck wooden train. Wood is wild, wild and mad, natured. Dragged the train up out of the canyon. Juppé asking rhetorical questions last night, guilty. Being guilty, a continuous state unperceived seemingly by the guilty inside himself. I was outside him watching the show on TV. To blame him for something isn't to get very far. To blame you is better. This is the way up, pulling the train up, cursing in the old way of this poem. Beauty in the hole from which images come. She gives him a drug, then flies up into a eucalyptus. A hard woman, even icy, became a bird, jewel blue, long-beaked, with long curved corrugated neck, iridescent. She's watching. He's holding a round silver pillbox, grains of the drug he's just taken some of. He is holding a hole, or the hole. That was at night, now deserted, white-hot adobe city, so beautiful against the mountains. Red geranium petals hanging planter, no one but a voice or two home. The sun's too hot, the time's too late, a century too late for anyone to be at home. This place was deserted 100 years ago. But I'm home, and hard edges are home, my mother's home, and the hole's home. Later, again at night, or was it earlier, there's a field and nothing else of white spheres, souls in the moonlight, small, perfect spheres, shinier, whiter on top, eggs, not pearls. There are mountains everywhere. The whole is everywhere. Beauty's a whole. I am it, and or he is who has taken, as I have, a little of the world drug, the beauty drug, but beauty isn't stable. The hole's everywhere, but matter, true matter, is disappearing, eaten by worms, and there's only a machine, grand, ugly. Are you still trying to find an image or dimension at its source? We abandoned the adobe city of beauty. Beauty turns over in the hole. You can't find the meaning of the images, the ones you live in, even on the daily plane. Anything can come out of the whole beauty hole, though beauty should. Are you still trying to find the whole hole, the bottom finally of the whole of images, which are the world and dreams? Yes. I'm tired, but will teach ever, this time teach the Constitution and its relation to poetry. Does it symbolize the constitution of everything? No one knows what that is anymore. So I sleep, and now I can't sleep. I think it's morning, but my friend says, no, it's 1:35 a.m. There's anomalous light outside, which isn't daylight as we know it. It shifts. What is it? A voice cries, call the police. There's a goo-bye out there, a fierce dog, a goodbye. Freedom meaningless if world a machine, the constitution of the composition of the whole is what I try to. If a whole has a comp, why not? It's just an image itself. The whole, what isn't, I'm not. Here, outside the dimensions in dream, I'll fail you for not knowing our constitution. Our Constitution's substance's extension shows itself bright orange, always a bit of nasturtium pure against the mountain-faced gray rock or smooth-packed beige, also constitutional, or a small just blue alpine apparition flower pale, the light through cut jewel, a tourmaline, not quite any other purple shade on a frail gold pin. Not manifestations of the human spirit as in art. Art is not beauty. Always dirty in the late-night bar of art filled with smoke, and no true warm amber or strange spot ruby in the night bar of art. All the young men work late in their old army jackets. The toilets are fouled, and there's a naked man in one for no reason. Nothing wrong with that. A Mariposa lily, scarlet orange with 3 glossy petals, is somewhere. One man's agonized over a death and has found out she had some last words. She asked for a drug or a painkiller. She asked for Waldo or Marco, died asking for a drugstore, Walgreen or Walmart, not a blue bird. This is ugly, not a stone shape changer, not a spirit in our grain. That's how we're in hell, because now there's no sky. There's a huge high ceiling that's hot night along the cold avenue. The ground is ice. A thin, long-haired, long-bearded man, not old, sits against walls, legs outstretched, bare feet stretched out on the ice. So you'll give him money. Give him more money. That's what they do. Shameless people mutter that beggars are asking for what we have. Someone convinces him to cover his feet. His name is Lustrous. A voice says, Lustrous will now cover his feet. Lustrous is a pearl in a field. We should be able to know and catch the image before and change it. Ballad. Cheney has used his power and authority, unrivaled by that of any vice president in modern times, to help set the course of the administration's war on terrorism. Look at him in his black glasses among organized gangs. I must have been calling to you, for you arose from a pond alive, but I knew you were really dead. And when you shone a small flashlight on my legs to see my beautiful legs within the dark theater of my psyche, it was because before you died, you no longer walked. Cheney's impact on the Iraq debate or his influence on the president cannot be overstated, officials and experts say. He's an oil ghoul and a war ghoul, Mara says. You took out a pen-sized flashlight and shone it on my legs. I was wearing some sort of front slit skirt. I just wanted to see your legs again. We were in the darkened aisle of the movie theater. Foreign ministers, including 17 presidents or prime ministers this year, have learned they must schedule a visit with Cheney as they make their rounds, one of the planners of the secret bombing of Cambodia and Laos. Then you and I were to make love with an emaciated dark woman, but she and I did so first. She was so thin with scar tissue all over her torso. She was myself, my emaciated soul. Cheney's position about the importance of confronting Iraq over its weapons of mass destruction has changed significantly since September 11th, both because of a new sense of vulnerability and increasingly alarming intelligence, according to administration officials, the liars. Get on a train, the outside of a train, riding a ladder there. Then I'm in a town for the night, waiting for the next train tomorrow. This is a train song. This is a train song. I'm on the train leaving you. Do I really have to ride the train? Can't I be an owl too? Cheney's office, in effect, is an agile cruiser able to maneuver around the lumbering aircraft carriers of the Departments of State and Defense to make its mark. What is your story, owl? I was drawn on the night in charcoal, but my eyes were alive because they were windows with gold light pouring through. And behind them, everyone was gone. Everything was done. Every little war was done in the haunted future. In the haunted future now, for how many millions of people, and I am one. Cheney is done. A meeting with him is so highly prized that when the vice president recently canceled a meeting with the foreign minister of Kazakhstan because the government had not released a Turkmen dissident, the Kazakh government quickly decided to set the man free. There are major oil fields in Kazakhstan, Mara says. And in my eyes, I keep something of you. I do. Is that what they are for? For keeping you there when everything was gone, when every little war was done, when I still had legs and eyes and wings in the haunted future. They are all dead today. They are all dead today, like us, like them. The owl flies up and up to ask, to hear, sounds to know. The turquoise snake is delighted with you and will bite you. Have I caused as much grief as I have received? Return to me, because I can feel. Can't feel, says the owl. Can't feel now. Tell me, the woman with the long, long hair strokes my head again. I am telling you thing, doing this, putting it into your unfeeling head. You will go again, mask, not to lose it. Mask of a human, to grieve. The tears are real turquoise because they come from a form of beauty. If you cry them for anyone who is dying in the world, if you cry them sown in the earth, they what? They return beauty to our ground. If someone cries who isn't the mate, mother, or father, child, relative of the dead, if anyone else cries, turquoise is returned, balance and beauty are returned to the ground. I saw soldiers and civilians lying in heaps. Through the crystal, the light disk had become crystal, and I saw that the dead were black corpses and pieces. They are speaking to you. What did I learn, and what was my life? Wasn't I supposed to learn something from the shape of it, torn to bits? And you sent me out not to, and we shot them so they couldn't, and you sent us out so we wouldn't learn any more. wouldn't. And she, remember, I couldn't bear to see her breath wiped from the mirrory surface of interaction. Days closely clothe us in soil. There are no issues here, no text you are reading, the veins behind your own eyes. I can't find you. No, you have found us dead ground. Revenge paint the numbers. Who can have vengeance against the owl's wings wait on us? Shot so couldn't surface, and I will never surface anymore. There is another space you fly, if the wing doesn't weigh, if it's palatial and light. But who told us that? Who told us anything that mattered? Is this true? Who? She replies, everything in being reflects the other, and so how could you disappear into something very different? But what you don't know is how the pieces are put together there. You used to let me walk here alone, downtown when I was too young. You have put me here when I was too young. I never thought, she said, he'd be in the ground so soon. Who? Wails the other's mother, for hers was brought back in pieces, sealed, and she'd never thought that a long time ago. But all that was so many years. You don't know where we really are, and you don't know what we think of you or what we think of each other now. You have tried to know nothing, and you have succeeded. That is true. Do I know anything? You have a crystal in your split forehead that is working its way towards knowing sounds. I have come from another form in the ground. Cherokee. I didn't see you on the 2nd, the next ghost dance day. I waited for you and the others to take over the real earth again with the animals. The president comes into this part and stops it. My husband is not at home. The president comes into every part and stops it, marching through Georgia. We are secretly holding the ghost dance in the air beyond the partition, which divides the violent public world from our souls, comes into this part, stops it, and signals with his infant finger, his gleeful hand of self, the vast construction of calluses. We, the American people, are constructing calluses wherever we may, upon the world which we conceive of as our own skin. Isn't it ours? Isn't the whole world ours? And we will harden our flesh to possible blows from usurpers. I didn't see you on the 2nd, the next ghost dance day. If they cover the earth with American materials, will the ghost dance work? You fountain of disappearances, you maker of power to no one but you. He comes in the 2nd ghost dance. Who? An image of the rattler of keys to take me home to my senses of old. But that was a dreamed wish. Even in the dream it was seen so. No one there. No one is here but men like presidential figures and their ambitious dogs. I didn't see you on the 2nd ghost dance day, Cherokee chants, on the 2nd ghost dance day when I have vanished into my version of the Pankisi Gorge, where escaped wild people starve and take drugs bargaining with the 3rd day of a ghost dance. You unholy barter, you ruby knot, you so poor. Yes, I am poor. Yes, I am so poor I can't live on the American earth. Yes, I am so poor you can't feel me through the calluses on your senses. Poor, poor. My miracle comes upon me on the subsequent days of the ghost dance. Still don't need me. Who needs me? A president needs his money. Sometimes he needs to wear the poor, but I won't be worn for an hour. I didn't see anyone on the 3rd ghost dance day. Was I the only one there, ready mist surrounding me? Am I the dying senses beneath the calluses of ambitious non-native men? Carry some more door. There is only a door to mist, and it is no mist of love. It is a cloud of knowing. I know what you're doing to my earth. Oath. By the little daggers of my dear, the very legitimate tendernesses of his spirit body, I swear, to go on before the courts in flowing lectures, to animate the light with furious weight. I needed to take the oath to go on in the previous torment, but there was nowhere to swear it. I am taking it before dead women in an appeasing silence, their sorrowful, calming negativity that requires nothing but solitaire and the pretenses of an imprudent, feathered cosmonaut. I then swear it. I will go on. By all the psalms and psychic pulleys connecting me with you, for there no reason, no interment of tantamount to sorel, oxalis, that means another word. I have blood for this. Is it mine or his? My progenitrix name bears the substance in obsolescence, fading from even my memory, but red on the tooth cannot be brushed off. You have left a bloody corpse in my bed. And that is again, says the man to the woman who is somehow the man, dark people, black, undemolished lilies. She is wearing rhinestone-embellished sunglasses in this funereal repartee, and she is transiently irritated. Which one has left the other? The body created and conjured the death in bloom. Survivor then am I, the violent, the needle-handle hand, outstretched from hooded figure, taps me again. I am its best friend, a doormat to its subtractions. Love has its own car and drives away, swifts and conference high above the tainted ground or pond. It isn't even a story. I am not undercover Professor Long in the quotidian papers. Here I dim my veins, terribly killer, to go on terribly killer, to dispose. By every equal height we attain, swearing by the tenets of our two souls, kneeling somewhere to carry the oath to, somewhere to play it across the endangered actress tablet. I cannot imagine how you felt. I am Highlands Point culminant, respecting the glasses, they are older than this one death. One wears them soliciting a battery of non-corrosive trials before entering the court, worn out. Swear excuses, not blood, but strawberries, red currants. By too much life's red, you'll never. And again, there are no rights if I live instead of you. I swear to go on, no right to. I swear to go on, no right to. That the ground is reasonable. I reaffirm that the ground is reasonable. Oh, that you might come back, such burnt earth returns nothing now. I reaffirm that the ground or being is reasonable. She welcomes me and listens to me listening. But it is ours, gone down to comfort. Now I have created a new woman in a round disc. A plate of light, drop more of that in, I say, and a woman's head appears, small in the Petri dish, attached to an ovarian shape. Drop more of that in now. You're so much better at this than I am, says my companion. I affirm that the ground being reasonable, magic opens in the scareaway house of the dead. I have been eliminated. She's dead? I ask another. Yes, she accepts it, she says ironically, for she is dead, isn't she? Negation being the ground for the chemical in the Petri dish. You do not return in begin the begin, but you dance with me in. In the reasonable ground, I have been recreated in the Petri dish resembling her ear. You're there. Okay. decomposition. And in tone inside the spell, am I inside it with the dead? We will not distinguish ourselves from the nuances of speaking. Do you remember anything? You had a tenderness of rubies. What you bled to the tone of it speaking. You need to know the name of the law, magic. If you're mental, you'll know that, even as stench of corpses below am like a bullet or ballot. I am the bullet you cut out, who shot us, ballet you cut out. Where was art in the whole floor space of war? Where was art in the plan? No. Your owl eyes are mandalas burnt into my eyes. I can't find my own home. He has trimmed my work down to his size, cut it, and made the misshapen long-legged star more regular. If you're mental, you'll know the tone of it bleeding. I am bleeding only to intone and see through mandala eyes. Is it for you I intone, or for the tone itself? As a smell is the tone of its own corpse, the corpse flesh sings it. Strokes my abstract wound. In abstraction, my nothing hurts, and I start and cry out, in tone the real pain imaginary. Will you ever stop making each other so unhappy? Will you ever stop making each other so unhappy? But it was he who did such and such for one, on all night, this sort of thing in the basement of the big department stores where you're sold. No, I am an unfaced spirit associated with fidelity, on the horizon without a mosaic of doves. I walked into a white shape, a sort of person hollow. You are a person thing, finding other things of stores. How will you get back, leaving ruined? They can't leave the ruins. Who can speak now, they say? There is no our kind. How will I get back by leaving, ruined as I am? You won't get back and you are ruined, but you can leave. What? Walk out on it? Man, because he is a hunter and fisher, because he cannot speak except in regulation. If he could speak as I can, he would be in ruins too. To speak is difficult, dangerous, and what a spirit might do in times or within a spell, intoning outside of them, stay outside of them, stay away, just stay away in ruins. Hear the rush to evening on the fallen street, see your own genocide on the reservation. Worldwide they pattern, pushed on further, an abandoned skirt, patterned with roses, fallen full, this genocidal expansion of ours, but the underground still belongs to the dead. And your name is? Surcease, he said, but he really said, my name is Cyanide. And as if he and his magic or medicine were now's suicide pill, press you further away from the surface we have need of, above the dead and the tones pressed from the head, which is meat, they say. So here are the diagrams. Why shouldn't we disconnect you from our evolution? I am no one on a small reservation. Your owl eyes are mandalas burnt. I see the unholy patterns you have placed upon our surface of genocide. Rhymes with cyanide, the blue of reason, as if I could die of it, reason. Take it and die. Are you really cyanide? No. See through your mandalas into my fluid eyes, tones, black to brown. I won't desert you, because I am moving in your mind and elsewhere, where one still smells the corpses. Everyone is defending a self against their faces charred, the broken enemy. Has to kill those people. Why? The rules for taking over the room, except that I am watching because someone is usually there when they kill them, who are dressed in costumes as performing bears. He lines them up, pretending to choose who will dance for circus pleasure, dressed as a brown-furred animal. But he's going to shoot them all, and we are watching nations founded on the genocide of who was there first. A minuet for the more expensive animals at court. I can't hear it. Now I do. Your dreams are boxes, keeping it separate, so I'll get up and go on. Can you hear? He has to kill those people. Why? In order to take over the room. I'm watching, because anyone's eye is now never closed, though she try. Anyone's eye sees the blood that they must build on, they say, and call them animals. If the tears trail down of who was, you say anyone but you, anyone but you. I will fight to make it you who bleeds. Will we? And your audition is not relieved. You will continue to hear the bullet dance from the last century. I am here for the love of my incursion. We want you to know how we feel as decomposition gone down, and why am I intoning? Because you bear the charge of this ground. where leftover misery goes. If it's a spiritual offense, does it as wrongdoing take place more in the second leftover, as a leftover? And is the significance of the double now that I might be might, the one who offends another circumstance, or that it takes two to make an offense, but how was I used and why were the others not usable? Was it because there were always two self-involved to be exploited? Oh, keep this mostly masked, as always these events are of the sort are replayed shadow in the second world, or perhaps in the overlap the border. Was it a spiritual offense, or did it take place more in the mind than in any outside? It surely does now. It only takes place in my, and keep this masked, keep it low. She's awaiting attention, acceptance is exceptional. Her face corroded. I have to avoid her like poison, but I have to keep remembering she's poison. There's a machine that allows memories to taken into the future. I have to remember she's poison, and that isn't a universally accepted fact that she's poison to me, wants to poison me and make me hers of her emotional camp, make me live of the camp if she thinks, but she is poison. She's acting like she isn't, and I can barely remember the last time I was poisoned. And now in the second world, there is no linear time, no many years past, and I don't know when they last said in the first world, accept her poison, but because it's only you, don't bother us on the cold wintry avenue, in your coat lined with papers, another wild-looking night, darker than the last one, which was purple. This one's deep navy with sliver moon behind a raggy cloud. In this wind, the buildings are dangerously high, and here and there are gold lights tossed. I didn't see the two strangers, my former Is that possible? Strangers? Until I suddenly did, staring at me. But the real point is that I'm not them nor her. I'm not the double, and I want to be hard about this. I am only the double, as I must straddle two worlds, but I am not the double who did wrong to me. I am not thee. There is no key for the brilliant red lake in the top of the rectangle map of me, which seems to be a sort of early area. Is desperation a pleasure? I'm so thirsty, and I'm supposed in joy, but do I believe, remember, desperation, joy, or guilt approach me from a side street trying to make me talk to them? I'm singing a song, and the he double says, not enough facts in that song, though there's a lot of poetry. One word has become cur of me. What word? It must be poet, cur. To cur, no longer a word. We have driven up high to this mountain town where the gypsies live but must leave, live but must leave. He asks me to talk to him, but I won't now, and she, all fuzzed up in the head, wants to give me an entire shelf of old books as a bribe to poison knowledge of her mind, but I'm resolutely in black fur, burning into a snowbank, a dream, a tall snowbank that is taller than I am. And it's hard to walk here in the death you are helping. I am being assimilated and wear a long dress and shawl. Watch me make love as a prostitute so I can be your friend, because you've only ever wanted to see my body, what you think of me. The villagers want to circumcise me Sunday so I can be everyone's. They're gypsies in the mountains on Luna something street. I used to live there, but I have since cut up the sidewalk and carry it with me, carry Luna something street with me wherever I go, and lay it down so I can walk towards or away from what I must walk away from them again. Board the ship, my other sister life will go to the camp where the actress, a second demonic woman's face, must be kept out of the movie. You can't know about her. You can't know in the first world, and in the second, thus there are these dreams which play out. Shadows on the street, useless kindness, curiously useless until the playing out is over. In the head of what you did, used me to stay you. And so I'm a gypsy again. Wait for the camp to break up in the mountains. Encased in crystal, you used me, but said you were use in the first world. On the street of poison was it only words? No, there was the death hole that was burned into the snow. It was supposedly another who died not die. I was never the one, was I? Never the focus was others. So how could you ever affect me when you were trying to fight another and only poison me lightly, who died not die? But there was the death hole burned into the snow here in the second world as I play it out in the crystal, a lighter story now, where I never die but have only died to that world. No one believes in poison. That's why we can't breathe. Someone has left me a book highlighted in black. Always do that. Leave a book and the letters hop and try to transform. But they can't, nor can the shelf of old book of esoterica change the nature of poison, which it goes towards because only thinks of self, thinks story, so the poison flows outwards in the bad air in winter, tinged with yellow and corroded face. Bookstore ever, if the double lives in a book. Others support her because I have never needed story. And the letters hop and try to transform. They are snow. The letters try again. I don't know know how to tell you this, letters. I don't care about your transitional stages. I don't care why you used poison. I don't care whose real name or person. I don't have to be tained certain of the action of self without salt. Keep doing this, so old. Because it happened once in the first world and in the second doesn't quite go away. The actions in the first and the real story as dream in the second's milder haunt, where who died not I, but died to the first and died to that camp and died to that bookstore and died to that. Oh, keep this mostly masked. Don't feel a thing or be poised, get poisoned. They're still all waiting for that. I dreamed I lived with them. They wore black robes and I was being assimilated. I wore a long black dress and shawl. The narrator cut in to say that I was prostitute and my boyfriend John watched me make love with the village men. There seemed to be many and tender-faced. What does prostitution symbolize? Half of the villagers are leaving, and then I will be circumcised because he dies or something. Take part in the rite of becoming a woman, can withstand the pain of that. She tries to poison again, wants me to be on his side and not in. I wake up for a few minutes, fall back asleep many years ago. They are gypsies. This movie will star us. And the stars are familiar in the part where I'm taken away on a ship with other prisoners, but I'm no one, just movie stars, just parts, and there's no point in falling in love with a commandant. He's just a star, and I'll die anyway. There's no point in it. And when she says love, there's no love. This is a spell to get out of here. How long will it take to the border is endless. Wants me to be on another side. She wants me to be on her side of the border, and I stay on the side of the second world always, but I'm still in the border where the nightmare sucks me into its feeling, want to keep saying about her because no one has believed it, and so say it and say, and so remain on the border. Will the circumcised women feel after death? Will the real include sensation that can't be manipulated by one's fellow creatures on the street denying me to the point, because I think they like it if you maintain sides. You are always near the border and never in the snows. Come again in the purple sinister sky so I can die and read the books they leave me, always alive, the letters of the letters, hop about and try to change but never do, because no one wants them to change. Dropped a thing. I dropped many things all along the way. This is one or possibly two excerpts from something called In the Pines, and that will be the last thing I read. However, I have to breathe for a minute. The intention of the organism is to know its life. Is that right, says the dead man? Your eyes are like times, your eyes are like people, your eyes are like failures to see. My eyes are like rhymes, my mother's backyard, covered with pine needles stabbing your eyes. On the ground it's misty night, the fence is silver sharp spikes, on the edge where I can't see, on the periphery. By chance I was born to appear to you to be a woman, my mother's daughter. She hears me, small girl, calling to her in trouble on the phone in her dream, dressed up like a choir. I forgot to tell her I was everyone. If she loves me, it isn't because of the intention of the organism. It is because of the love. If you are in it, you know. Then at that time, that's what you know. Then in that time, you don't have to know. That's why I'm not telling a story. You don't have to solve the murder. You did it. You sold everyone a human killed by a human. Bent over backwards because the X-rayed beloved has dust on it. It's such a dusty rat. I lie here as eyes dry flames in the Sisters of Luck. It was my luck to be tormented by the people advancing themselves over others. It was your luck. Whose luck was it? This is going nowhere. Because I'm dead or because it's the human situation you say I can't see. There's no such thing as a situation. What about your illness, you say? Oh, the plot. And now he is leaving and going away, part of the murder of my love. It's somewhere in a torn-down house that's now the post office. She shook it and broke it. It's below the house that isn't there. No one, but he's someone to me. And if only these relations remain after all I've done and known. Why did I? No one, and I'm no one to myself. Not his daughter, but I'm his daughter because I'm him, and this love, the fire that never dissolves in these eyes you've named because you weren't a woman. Well, neither am I, and there's nothing for you, too. If everybody's my parents and children, my sisters and brothers, if everyone's my love, still I saw you dead watching over you. You were your own angel. And his double instructed him to leave me coded messages from his death in every poem he wrote. This is the circumstance of trees gone forever from the yard. It's too dark for my sister to go out. Don't let her go out there yet. If you only care for others, you'll get nothing in this world. Nothing for you, too. I cared for others all my life, he said, and still I was wrong. I'm trying to give you everything I have, but I can't find it. I can't find it yet. And I traded my face for one pierced with ruby studs because I loved you. Because you loved me. This is where the writing was never generous, where it broke into partiality. I became partial to myself and you to you. He wasn't right in the head. I may not be right. He checked the door for you at night. He asked for a little money in return, so you paid him. Why do you think it needs checking? I think my property keeps me from living on the street. The store's gone dilapidated. We are all sorrowful because it was us, but it isn't the store now. It's empty. He rode a freight into town and decided to stay. He slept in the garage. I'm checking the doors of your stores. I want to break in to say I'm leaving. I'm going to leave on a train. I leave and leave in the night. No one wants to rent the store now. It's like a broken thing. Myself, he says, dead there. I was first pierced by love when I was born. My face and body pierced by blues, by reds and blues, like a tribal possession. Sapphires and rubies of rigid pains, love bade me contort myself. Did love itself? It is a realer word than physiology, though I run from it. If it got me again, I could not, like this world, stand long, for I'd be too full of love, not like this world, full of hate. He said he had a piece of paper to prove he wasn't crazy. He said, do you? Is it a piece of paper? Yes, it isn't the chemicals, it's the piece of paper with the words. When he died, Daddy raised the money for the burial. No one in such a small town should have a pauper's grave. No one wants to rent my store now. No one wants to check the door. I'm just like him. I'm watching your stores at night. They're full of songs you don't remember. It's an accident that I have this property where I sleep, I say. I got it through love without asking. I didn't do anything for it. I loved someone who died. I didn't even buy it myself. Don't you cry, said his sister. Don't you never cry. You are the murderer. I always knew the house was on fire. It was one of the first things I knew. It's still on fire, the closet. Is there anything in it? I knew his songs before I knew his name. Everyone knows the songs before they know of the writer or singer. Maybe your daddy sang them to you, she said. And the one who wasn't right in the head sang Goodnight, Irene, the one who, like me, was not a man or a woman or anything. No one would let him be a man, but I couldn't handle it, a sex like that. It's repulsive to be given a sex when you're a being on a freight train flying by, mindless and not right. I had slept wherever the freight train took me, he said. I didn't have to be right in the head if I could just make it through my time. You're right in your head, not if I'm him and there's nothing to be right about. My eyes so full I could not see is all I want. What's in the closet of fire? What's that burning on your cheek? Only a ruby where your name is. So he wasn't loving anyone? Each minute, each flame, that's what I am. The birds sang about the murder. They were the sapphires leaving and going away, while someone stayed on with a mind to get through it. The leaves were emeralds and the sun was the diamond this time. Only in your mind, if you kept it safe. I'm afraid that my mind isn't safe. I'm afraid that I'm not safe. Unless I was safe before I was born to be guarding your store. The store lies empty, am I? There's nothing in it but songs. I ride the exactitudes of pitch, the tune, and words alone. I wouldn't be able to take the journey if I couldn't hear the poem. Could you voyage without the register of changes? Who do you serve? Do you serve somebody? I serve the poem, no one. As they are taking down the tent, as if there were no more poetry, see the ghosts of it, women chanting. Blind man sings, like no one. This land condemned endures. I could never be ashamed of my life, hearing that old owl sing. I was born to be your poet. I am the woman, your poet, all that I am. And I know one thing, no one is the poet I am. She just did what she had to do. Who else can do this? No one, and any no one who cares to, and the eyes above, where I have been, approve. I don't think you had a choice except to be a poet, he said, but this world still can't stand long. He was already sick. There's an enormous pine beneath which she lies, Mama, in the pines, and of all the pines, this one above, with some of its needles gone yellow, is the most beautiful. It can't stand long, can it? More and more parts of us die, covered up after by the long black coat of his preference, ignorance. I prefer the live versions, the performance of the search for the soul. The scratches in this recording are due to a perfect technique. Beauty's intransigence. Them that don't like it can leave me alone. Take care of the pines where we sleep. I never do anything else. The photos of the dead women, too, were faint and silvery, scratched. I knew who they were, my relations, and I still longed to help them, though they were dead and I would become one of them. Never got what we should have had, never got what you should. Equality is a poor word for life. You can't have what they had, their loss, or else the rich would live and the poor would die. She don't have nowhere to go, wandering round from door to door. She's traveling through the land. Don't you hear me calling? I remember when Mama dreamed that she was crying outside her bedroom window, trying to get in. She was at that time far away in the hospital for the defective. Don't you lie to me. Tell me, where did you sleep last night? She couldn't lie. She never grew, never spoke. Beneath the great pine tree, I think all this in my high old bed, Mama said. I do whatever you do. Mama, I keep trying to find her soul. But she has it, don't you know? In the boughs where the shamans come to life, boughs where the poem's dark eyes hang. It's such an old function, I've forgotten everything that I know, except how to do it again. He still knew how as he lay mostly blind, dying. He just didn't do it anymore. He was it. Kiss him goodbye in the hospital for the moneyless. There's another poet lying over in another ward. Which one? Which poet? Do you know him? I know one thing. Nobody can sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. I am your poet, Mama said. I gave you everything I had, though you thought I was wrong sometimes. I didn't give you jeans. I gave you poems. It's all the same being, wrapped up beneath the tree on the riverbank, wrapped up with Blackjack Davy. Divided, spreading their wings, they fly up from the tree, though tonight they'll lie on the cold, cold ground in his arms. I gave you everything you know. This world tree is patterned but unconditioned, because you never know if you'll make it or not to the heavens and bring back your soul in this song. There's no because. Who do you serve? The tree, she said, the tree with golden needles, never barren. But nobody could sing the blues like you could, singing hers, her, your song, all wrapped up one, in the arms of the old infirmary. I'm gazing out the window, all the windows. Everything's in motion, he said. At least that's all I see. I only see movement now. I'm its audience, he may have said, still interested, though he hadn't walked for months. If I'm not your poet, who is? If you don't want a poet, then don't say so. Baby, please don't go. I gave up my long blue gloves and shoes of finest leather, but I never left my babies. I bore them in the great pine tree, and we lived there together. In the tree of shamans, we still do. Don't lie to me. Who are you? Just who are you? Made the words around him ring. How old are you, my pretty little miss? A long time ago and now. You never will want for money, because you never will want it. What will you forsake? I'll forsake everything but the tree. The pilgrims call it the tree of life.